Welcome back to the Mancave Caucus podcast. We're coming at you live again from deep within the bowels of the manliest of all man caves. I'm your host, Ben Baker. Tim Holden is here across from me here at the makeshift desk, and Joel Mace is, well,
way prettier than he was 2 weeks ago.
He's gone again, Tim. Gone again.
For shame.
You know, so once more, we're one vote shy of a quorum.
But
yet again. But you know what? We're going to go on.
The pleather couch is starting to dry rot without any
any use,
without any skin cells to fill in the
it's really
fill
bad.
in the blanks.
It's really bad. Yeah, so Joel's off gallivanting around the countryside, just like a gypsy rhinestone cholo, Tim.
I couldn't tell you where he was.
I don't know. I don't know this time. He's totally off the grid.
He's probably doing something, since no one's here to fact check. He's probably doing something really epic.
He's not even here to defend himself.
Trying out for the Commanders as a walk-on.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we're left to navigate this show once again without our North Star of what we call the facts. So, get ready for another fun episode, Tim. Free from the itchy constraints of objective facts. I hope you came loaded again, Tim, with your plethora
I brought
of facts that are not, in fact, facts.
I brought notes.
It sounds like Rush Limbaugh when he would ruffle the papers.
With his tobacco-stained fingers.
Nicotine. Yes. Good times. I miss Rush, man. I miss his voice. So, it'll be entertaining if nothing else. What is gallivanting anyway?
Look
that up. See what that definition might be, Tim. I don't know.
It is to frolic.
Is it
abroad?
Okay. Well, I was thinking, like, off the top of my head, I would say it's kind of rooted in just shamelessly trotting around with no shred of purpose or reason.
Frolic.
Just meandering through life. Carefree. That's what came to mind for me.
I'm thinking it probably came from, I'm wanting to guess that it probably came from medieval times when you were tooting around on your gallant steed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that's where the gal came from.
Sounds about right.
But we could just leave it at that. Actually.
Well.
Okay, so gallivanting, or it's more common spelling, gallivanting, which has two L's.
Okay.
Means to travel, roam, or move about for pleasure.
Oh, man,
Often
I was so close.
In a carefree or frivolous manner.
So close. So close. Yeah, I feel like it's, it's time for Joel to get back. So we need to put out what is it called? The APB?
Yeah.
Put out the APB
All
for Detective Joel Mace. Get him back in here next week.
Roaming, wandering, rambling.
Yep.
And gadabouting.
Gadabouting? That's one I've never heard. You need to use that one more often.
I have not ever used that.
Just out there gadabouting around. Is that the kind of context you would use it in?
What is the meaning of gadabout? A person often used in a slightly disapproving way.
Oh, maybe that's even more accurate.
Who moves about restlessly or aimlessly, especially from one social activity to another, or travels often for pleasure.
That's spot on.
Joel is a gadabouter.
He's a gadabouter for sure. We've got a new term.
That gadabout sums it up.
I can't wait to use that. Yes.
We might have to add that to his intro title.
Yeah. Googler of all things.
Frivolous gadabouter.
Full-time, part-time gadabouter. Or it's really just a full-time gadabouter, isn't it?
For sure.
There's no part-time about it. We'll do that. Next time, we're going to open up that way. Don't even tell Joel either. First up, the Doge protests, Tim, are just raving out there around the country. from the lunatic left. They're still at it, destroying Teslas, in protest of Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Doge. I think it's funny, they tear them up. That way insurance will pay for them going and buying another one. It's great.
Have you kind of gotten the vibe that Elon might be stepping back?
Yeah, they said he would.
So at 130 days.
June, maybe. Yeah.
Is what the original kind of agreement was. And I have a guy that would gladly, I think, bear this burden. It's time for Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, put him
to
right
bring
in the
his
Doge.
130 days.
It is definitely time. We need to draft Ramsey.
What are they going to do? Burn?
Hey, let's put it out there.
What's the name of his? Burn the total money makeover books in the street?
I'm debt free. Right.
What could they do to Dave Ramsey?
Nothing. Yeah, burn his books.
Burn books.
Then they would be
I know.
They would be the ones burning books.
That's what I'm saying. They'd be burning Total Money Makeover copies from the Goodwill.
Oh.
It's where everybody gets theirs if they're living right.
Yeah, if you're living right, that's where you pick it up. And you don't pay for it with a credit card,
I got
for sure.
$4 Total Money Makeover book.
I used to teach that class.
Really?
Yeah. Back in the old days.
I should have sat in on a couple of those.
Yeah.
Let
me guess. You're the
gad-abouting.
free spirit.
I'm the free spirit in our relationship.
Gad-abouting free spirit.
But my wife, she's the yin to my yang.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Total tightwad.
The good Lord knew it, Tim.
He knew.
He knew it.
I'd be a...
So, with all this Doge protesting, they were doing it today even in Joplin. There was a little protest up there. Hands off. The hands off protests. Have you heard about those?
No.
Yeah. I think it's funny. It's like the same people who were just begging for the government to say, stay in your house, mask up, all the things during COVID are the same people that are saying hands off when it comes to the Trump administration 2.0.
Yes. I was bemoaning the weather this weekend.
Yeah, I was too.
And then I saw that people were protesting today, and I was like,
Right. Couldn't have been a better
weekend for a protest.
Real smart idiots is what I say regarding these people. You're literally financially helping the company that you hate so much by destroying this property and some of the things they're doing. And not only that, but now conservatives are considering buying Teslas. If I bought the Cybertruck, I would probably replace it with a nice diesel engine, blow some black smoke on the protesters as I was going by from the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Did you see what I posted a few days ago?
No, I didn't.
Here it is.
Yes. So good.
I don't know if the camera can catch it, but it says it has the two buttons with the cartoon finger, and it says buy an American V8, buy a Tesla, and it had a picture of the guy off Seinfeld.
George.
No, that's the neighbor that starts with an N.
Yes.
Anyways,
sweating, just sweating,
red faced.
Doesn't have a clue of which button to push because you want them both. But yeah, so I've got a little instance here we're going to play on the video of one of these lunatics. This one is from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, believe it or not. And the guy keeps throwing nails and screws under the tires of people who own Teslas or who have Trump bumper stickers on their car. So watch this video, see what you think about this. This is a little news clip regarding this story.
Police say it was here on October 31st. A woman parked in this grocery store lot. When she returned, about a dozen nails and screws were under her car. Police say store video shows a man tossing the items there, but the images were too grainy to identify him. Over the course of several months, police say similar crimes had been reported all around Lower Makefield. In February, a store worker at this McCaffrey's told police he thought the person from the video had returned to the store. Police looked at the video and matched up credit card receipts with a store loyalty card.
Whoops.
They say they determined this man, Alaric Dahlberg, was a suspect. They went to his house. And according to these documents, Dahlberg told police he shopped at the store frequently. And when he was showed images from where the crimes took place, police say he identified himself, saying he targeted people based upon political signs he saw or conversations he overheard, telling police he kept nails and screws in his cup holder, and these were crimes of opportunity.
You're just hurting fellow citizens that are just trying to, have a life and have good quality of life. And in Bucks County, that's what we really push out is good quality of life. Our law enforcement, our district attorney's office works very hard here in Bucks County, and to have these noodles out doing that is just ridiculous.
Noodles.
Look how
Just forlorn. Look at this.
after
And that was
listening to
Bucks County Sheriff Fred
people called
Herring, who
noodles,
says that if you
she
are the
just
victim
had
of
a-
vandalism, you should report it right away. He says that there is an uptick in what's being called crimes that are motivated by political issues. And again, he wants those reported to police. As for the crimes here, we did reach out to Dahlberg's attorney, and our request for comment was not returned.
I'm afraid this could be the end of the road for all those screw jars that I've been saving.
Yes.
Some people have screw jars. I have 5-gallon buckets of fasteners that just wound up in the bottom of things, and I
Said he
just dumped my bags.
kept him in the cup holder.
That's
Just
what
a
I'm
little
going to go
few
home
loose
and
screws.
I'm going to go home and take those down to A1 scrap.
Yeah.
Just so I'm never tempted to
Just crazy
let
stuff,
my loose
man.
screws out.
Who has the time to go around tossing screws and nails under people's tires just because you disagree with them politically? This is where we're at, Tim. It's not a good place.
Come to find out, he does also own a tire shop, so
Right.
there was some motivation.
Yeah. A little job security.
It was a twofer.
He just blamed it on that. That's a pretty good idea. You could clean up some business, probably. Just go out to your local Walmarts and
Yeah.
go to tossing out like Johnny Appleseed
Yeah.
from your cup holder.
Be like a plumber that ate copious amounts of wasabi and went and blew up the Walmarts
Right.
just to get a little extra work for the Roto-Rooter.
Yes. Purely selfish reasons, I'm sure. Next up, USAID. We've talked about this quite a lot. Doge has basically shuttered this place down, and the money is no longer going to those areas where they have uncovered all the funds, funding everything around the world except for the United States of America. And so it's officially dead. And here's why it's a good thing. I saw an X thread from Senator Eric Schmitt, our own Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt, that I thought was spot on with this. And the title of the article he shared here just says, State Department formally shutters USAID after Trump court victory. And here's a couple of the things he mentioned. He said, much of this has already been documented at length through USAID. Billions of U.S. tax dollars were funneled to radical NGOs, media outlets, civil society groups, and foreign bureaucracies that actively worked against both American interests and conservative values worldwide. And then he said these left-wing systems operate across borders through international bureaucracies and NGOs, so the left-wing activism we fund abroad always comes back home. For example, the State Department dumped billions into refugee NGOs that facilitated mass migration in Europe and America. He said these groups linked with bureaucracies like the UN were directly involved in the migration crisis in Europe. At the same time, they were running an end-to-end migration network here, guiding migrants up to our border, giving them cash, resettling them in the U.S. communities. And he said another example with these funds from USAID is censorship, an issue that he said I know especially well. As I detailed in the thread below, USAID was part of a global censorship enterprise funneling U.S. dollars to disinformation groups that work to silence conservatives here and abroad. And he mentions the Missouri versus Biden lawsuit that he filed in 2022 to force the Biden administration to release 20,000 pages of evidence exposing their collusion with these huge NGOs that are basically grifting operations with our taxpayer dollars. So I thought several of those things that he mentioned is so true and a big part of the problem when you look at these funds with USAID. So, yes, I think it is a good thing that they have basically shut this down, saying we shouldn't be funding all of these things, and there are much better places where we should be directing our taxpayer dollars. So I think it's a good thing.
So America is no longer riddled with U.S. AIDS.
U.S. AIDS, yes. Yes.
It's good.
That is good. It's very good.
Bloated.
So here's another example I brought up of this kind of ridiculous spending of our tax dollars, where the USDA funded a study at Pennsylvania State University. And here was the title, Tim, of this study. Just get this. Sexuality and Sustainable Agriculture, Examining Queer Farmers' Quality of Life in Pennsylvania. This is the study that the USDA was funding under Biden. And they tried to argue with this study that heteronormativity, if you even can even imagine, that's just called being normal, I think. But heteronormativity in farming excludes queer farmers from full agricultural benefits. This is what they were arguing.
You don't have to be lonely at queerfarmersonly.com. And that's how that jingle came about.
So Michaela Hoffelmeyer, a graduate student involved in this study, presented the findings at the Rural Sociological Society an annual meeting in Richmond, Virginia, highlighting the project's focus on what they called an understudied topic. Well, I can imagine that would definitely be an understudied topic. Queer farmers in Pennsylvania. Probably very understudied for obvious reasons. I wonder what the Amish thought about this.
What percentage of the population do you figure they were studying in Pennsylvania?
It's got to be so minute, Tim. I can't even put a number on it. I don't know. Maybe.
I think since Joel's not here, I'm pretty sure.
Go for it.
With it, just give me about 30 seconds, and I think I can put a number on that.
But this grant, while you're looking for that, is part of a broader pattern of USDA spending on LGBTQ-related research, including in 2021. Actually, the grant was between 2021 and 2024. There was a grant for almost $15,000 to study Latinx and gender identities in sustainable agriculture in Pennsylvania. So here's the thing. Let me get this straight. Here we are on the brink of China controlling our food supply, right? Gobbling up our farmland, threatening our food security, and the USDA under Joe Biden was funding grants on queer farmers, which I would imagine, as you're trying to find this number, Tim, that probably doesn't even exist. A queer farmer in rural America is about as common as, I don't know, me listening to Beyonce's This Ain't Country.
I still haven't heard that.
This Ain't Texas, which I always say it should have been This Ain't Country.
So there's
that ain't country.
13.8 million residents in the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
There are 90,000 farmers.
Okay.
And 2% of Pennsylvania is estimated to be
total population.
Total
2% of total population
is estimated to be LGBTQ
alphabet
folk.
Okay.
So, 2% of 90,000. We're going to go ahead and round her up to 100,000 in case there were some extra farmers that didn't make the census.
Okay.
So we have 200 people.
Okay.
They were studying 200 people, and how much did that?
But that's total population, not.
Well, and I think if we went further and figured out how many
were actual farmers,
gay farmers there were,
right,
it probably drops to about 0.0001%.
Right.
Of farmers.
I would say that's close. We don't even know.
I've
Joel's
never met.
Not here to check you.
I don't believe I've ever met a gay farmer. They all kind of seem
Pretty heteronormative.
Extra heteronormative.
Right.
Ultra.
Yes.
Ultra heteronormative. That's what
Possibly, like, if you were to look at a demographic in this country, I would think that demographic would probably be the most heteronormative
I will say
of all.
If I hear about a farmer who's growing microgreens.
Right.
So let's say there were 2 microgreen farmers in Pennsylvania. How many million per farmer were we?
It's a good question, Tim.
I don't remember
It's a good question.
I just I'm pretty sure it was 3 people they were studying.
Yeah, I think so. But that is the kind of stuff that they are spending our tax dollars on with these programs. Of course, this was under Joe Biden. Trump has pretty much put an end to all this, and Doge is a big part of that. Listen to this one, though.
Hey, does anybody want a job paying $8,700 an hour? And the job only requires probably about 10 hours of work per week. Because Doge just went into the VA and found that somebody was making that. They found that there was a software engineer who was paid to do light modifications on the website, which takes about 10 hours per week, and they were paying him $380,000 a month to do that, which comes out to roughly about $4.5 million a year.
$4.5 million a year.
Break that down into 10 hours a week of work. That's roughly $8,700 an hour. Yeah, that's not okay. That's my tax dollars. That's your tax dollars being paid to.
So this was the VA, where you find somebody making $8,700 an hour and only working about 10 hours a week. It's a pretty good gig right there. I wish I could find one of those, Tim. Meanwhile, the VA has problems, right? Has had many problems in being able to just service our veterans like they're supposed to do. But yet we're paying somebody $4.5 million a year to barely do anything. So that's another one that they were talking about this week. But also, Elon and Doge set their sights on members of Congress that have been suspiciously wealthy on their congressional salaries. Now they're really getting down to the nitty-gritty.
We're figuring out why they were all squirming.
Yes. So apparently Doge is to investigate Congress members like Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, whose combined net worth is estimated at listen to this, Tim, $439 million between Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell.
$500 million.
Suspiciously amassing this wealth on what is the salary for a congressman? $170-something thousand a year.
183, right?
Yeah, it's under 200,000. So this ties into Musk's public criticism of wealthy career politicians, with users highlighting. So look at Bernie Sanders, for instance, Tim. He owns 3 homes, but yet he's always going around, gallivanting around, gadabouting around.
He's a gadabouter.
Just spewing this anti-wealth rhetoric all the time. Dude is a millionaire.
I got one for you.
Owns
here.
3 homes.
Tell
me about it.
I read the Freeform this week, and I have a quote from Missouri native and Democrat Harry S. Truman.
Yes.
Quote, "You can't get rich in politics unless you're a crook."
Yes.
Quote, end quote.
Well, I can tell you from experience that he's correct, Tim, when it comes to that.
That was, old show me Truman.
If you have a conscience and you have any morals, you're not going to make any money being a politician.
That's what Harry said, and he was a Democrat.
Believe me, I can tell you. But Harry S. was right about that one. So, yeah, Doge is going to go after them. And I think now they might be actually getting to the actual reason why members of Congress have opposed their efforts so vigorously,
I
we
wish
say.
Joel was here to set up some poly markets for us.
Right.
On who goes first.
And why there are all these highly organized protests and very well-funded protests that are going on around the country, protesting Doge, protesting this group of people that are finding waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal government.
I'm not jumping ahead in saying, do you have the article this week about the protests coming up?
Oh, what's coming up?
Oh, I didn't know if it was in the feed for this week, but they admitted to funding the protests.
Oh,
1,300 protests happening today, I believe, was the day.
Was this the Doge or was this the hands off?
Hands off.
Yeah, the hands off movement.
But it was admittedly funded by a Soros,
of course, NGO, nonprofit, umbrella,
and 1,300 protests. They were bragging about it on who's the short-haired Rachel Maddow.
Oh,
he did a intense interview, just relishing that in the fact that they were able to get 1,300 protests going on this week. And there's
paid protesters.
60 in California. Yeah.
Probably making more than that guy at the VA.
The number I've heard recently, and it was on Rogan, was $400 to go to an event.
Oh, so you got to pay?
No, you get paid $400.
Oh, you get paid $400 to just attend and hold a sign up.
That came from some, wherever they're recruiting.
Or one of them I saw, the woman was just mooning people as they were going by, protesting.
What kind of a protest?
To the moon.
How much cottage cheese? Like, I get blocking a road.
Right.
But you have to have a nasty butt, a nasty buttocks.
Right.
To make mooning people inconvenience their day or week or change their political status.
You're not changing minds.
It's got to be a bad butt.
You're not changing minds, Tim. I'll just say that.
I'm talking about
you changed no one's mind.
Surface of the moon cheeks.
Right. And I think she was probably in her 70s.
Yeah.
So you can imagine.
I get why they would pull someone in their 70s out.
Right.
To make people rethink everything
just performance
that they've ever
art.
thought. Have you ever been mooned by a 70-year-old?
Don't want it. No.
I haven't either.
It would definitely not change my political opinions. Probably just confirm them, actually. Right?
It could cause you to do self-harm, though.
Oh.
So
you're saying there could be some really public safety.
I feel like if I accidentally stumbled upon Lizzo's buttocks, I may not be here next week.
I think you're right.
I'd be
I think it could definitely affect our mental health.
Laying on a couch.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody wants that.
So if you had a bad enough...
Nobody asked for that.
If you had a bad enough bottom to send out mooning conservatives.
Okay. I got a story for you. This is a squirrel. You ready? This week in a committee hearing, I'm hearing a Senate Bill 10, and it's on removing the sunsets for all these programs, right? Terrible bill. Just horrible. And this guy comes up, and I'm running the committee just like a sewing machine, man. Things are just clickety-click, moving on, and this guy comes up and he says, because they have to tell you who, lobbyists, they have to tell you what their name is and who they lobby for. And he said, I'm so-and-so here on behalf of Happy Bottoms.
Happy Bottoms.
Happy Bottoms Diaper Bank.
So diaper banks can afford a lobbyist.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the state's funding them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're
they
getting
need to
taxpayer
keep
subsidized diapers.
Rolling.
They got to keep that rolling, so they hire the guy to represent them up there in Jeff City. But I'll tell you, Tim,
Could you imagine being the Happy Bottoms lobbyist?
What a gig.
I want that job.
I'll tell you, I made no less than 5 jokes just with a straight face.
I'm very proud.
Running that committee. I should have brought you a clip.
If I was the Happy Bottoms lobbyist, I would always carry a slideshow of unhappy bottoms. Just
Right.
so that people could know
See the difference? Where their
importance.
taxpayer dollars are really going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want a festering lump on a baby's buttocks?
No.
Nay.
No, we got to keep that program in place.
This money rolling.
Anyway, sorry.
Unreal.
Little
Happy-
squirrel story there
Happy
for you.
bottoms. Thank you.
Yeah. So next up this week, Elon Musk announced that he had sold X, formerly known as Twitter, the social media platform, to his artificial intelligence company, XAI, in an all-stock deal. I don't know if you were following this or not. The transaction valued X at $33 billion, or $45 billion, including $12 billion in debt, and XAI at $80 billion. So Musk originally purchased Twitter in October of 2022 for $44 billion, if you remember. Later rebranding it as X after the acquisition. X faced challenges, even a significant drop in valuation for a period of time, which that's back now. But now the sale to XAI, which Musk founded in 2023 to advance AI research and compete with companies like OpenAI and all of these ChatGPT and these other companies, marks a strategic consolidation of his business interests. So X and XAI, of course, were already closely linked. You know, you have the built-in Grok chat GPT app that is within Twitter, and now its own app as well, chatbot, and integrated into X and trained on basically the user data for X. The deal combines X, the vast real-time data from over 600 million users with XAI's AI capabilities, aiming to create a powerful synergy of data, models, computing power, and distribution. Musk stated that this move would unlock immense potential by merging XAI's advanced AI expertise with X's massive reach, positioning the combined entity then to deliver what he made the statement as smarter, more meaningful experiences while pursuing a mission of seeking truth and advancing knowledge. So it's a very interesting merger happening there.
My theory is that Grok texted Elon from the chatbot, said, "Hey, Elon,
Yeah.
I want to buy X." So AI, it started.
It's starting.
AI is now making acquisitions.
I think that's very likely.
What if Grok texts him and says, "Hey, Elon, I want to buy Tesla."
Who are you to say no
Then starts pumping out some robots.
to the AI? Yeah. So this is an interesting thing to see, this merger. And I thought it was interesting that the deal allowed X investors to swap their shares for stakes in XAI. So,
Yeah,
but Elon Musk still maintains control over both entities.
that's good.
So there's a lot of details we don't know yet, as both companies are privately held, but an interesting acquisition for sure.
I'm definitely excited about if SpaceX ends up doing a merger. I feel like that'd be a...
Tesla and SpaceX.
Yeah.
It's an interesting stuff, man. AI is, well, we've talked about it some, but it's just exponential. The potential of what's going to happen with that in the near future.
Both ways.
Yes.
Could be real bad.
Crazy stuff.
pretty
Next
sweet.
up, President Trump signs an executive order regarding the scalping of concert tickets this week with Kid Rock in attendance. Watch this
Kid
video.
Rock looks more like a scalper
Than a rock star.
than a rock star.
For sure. So this is in the Oval Office. Kid Rock was there in all of his glory to see the signing of this executive order. Here we go.
I'm pretty sure I've bought some St. Louis Cardinals tickets from him.
Ticket reselling business for fans of live entertainment and for entertainers as well. The ticket reselling
Sharf
industry has become a huge
explaining
issue.
it.
These people use bots and computer algorithms to buy up huge blocks of tickets and then jack up the price so that fans of live entertainers like Mr. Ritchie, I almost called him Mr. Rock, don't have access to concerts the way that they should. And when they do, it's at exorbitantly high prices. So what this executive order does, it charges the FTC and the Department of Justice with rigorously enforcing laws on the books in collaboration with state attorneys general that have power over consumer protection and other people who have the power to really crack down on this issue so that entertainers and fans won't be subject to these abusive and oftentimes illegal practices.
Good. Thank you very much.
Did you hear what he said after?
What did he say?
Something about it looked like Kid Rock was about to be shot out of a cannon. And
Trump said something like that?
Trump cracked a joke. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
He said something about, I don't usually have someone standing beside me that looks like they're about to be shot out of a cannon.
Well, people were kind of, the lefties were throwing it out there that people were saying stuff about Zelensky without a suit, conservatives were, and then conservatives were praising Kid Rock.
The difference,
for
though,
being there.
The difference is Kid Rock went and had that custom-made abomination of American pride.
Yeah, America.
Sewn up, probably by
just for that event,
straight from China.
Right.
But nonetheless, that was a choice of really putting your patriotism on broadcast, and it was loud.
It was loud,
and I heard
and proud, and we loved every minute of it. Right.
What do you expect from a space cowboy?
That's right. So next up, MIT is discussing growing spare humans in pods. Tim. So I've got a Not the Bee story here. I'm just going to read a little bit of this. It says MIT is out here publishing stories about growing spare humans in pods. For real. Do they think the warnings of every sci-fi book and film is a how-to guide? Yes, this MIT op-ed is discussing how we could grow bodyoids. Sounds like a...
They could have done better.
Some kind of a Axe body wash. Bodyoids. To help us revolutionize medicine, if only there were sci-fi plots that have warned us for decades about what type of hell we will unleash by going down that path. Says recent advances in biotechnology now provide a pathway to producing living human bodies without the neural components that allow us to think, be aware, or feel pain. Many will find this possibility disturbing. That's a fact. But if researchers and policymakers can find a way to pull these technologies together, we may one day be able to create spare bodies, both human and non-human.
Be able to go down to Bro Riley's and pick up some spare parts.
Right.
Be like, hey, you got a lung for a
bodyoid
for a 1989 Caucasian,
slight to medium build,
a bicuspid.
They say, is that a 2-wheel drive or a 4-wheel drive?
Well, I've lost some weight now, but I could use a molar, a bicuspid, and a wisdom tooth.
Yep. See if you got that in the back there.
Got any
yeah, but
hydrogenated oil?
Does this not remind you of like the Terminator, the Matrix, like all the ones, iRobot, all the ones that warned us of the epic failure of growing humans in pods?
Have you seen any videos of what they're growing?
No. I haven't. I don't want to see it, Tim.
I do not believe that I've ever watched a horror film.
Yeah, not my cup of tea.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're like. I saw a video of what they're growing.
Oh.
It's disconcerting.
I'd say.
It's
and
repulsive.
the ethical problems with this, it is definitely something to be discussed. But I'm telling you, you better get ready for this crazy stuff because it's happening, and it's going to be
It's
even more so in the years coming.
it's really wild that if we wanted another human back in the day,
This reminds me of Multiplicity.
we'd just meet up with our soulmate
Yeah,
and make one.
right.
And things have gone off the rails, or they're heading.
They have.
It's looking real rough.
Yeah, the rails are not headed in the right
I'm
direction.
seeing one of those bodyoids or whatever they're calling them in my mind's eye, and it's
It's not a pretty sight.
repugnant.
Yeah. Next up, Tim. Back to San Francisco. We haven't talked about them for a while.
Sissy. Not since last time.
Not since last time. They're contemplating a policy there that would have a tiered system of fines for speeding based on your income level. So, low income would pay less for speeding, and if you're wealthy, then you would pay more. If you're next to homeless, but you still have a vehicle that you could speed on, then you could get as much as 80% off.
Well, you can get a ticket for defecating on the sidewalk.
In San Francisco now, can you?
You can.
Is that real?
They could do it. They
could
don't
do it.
enforce
They
that
just
law.
don't choose to enforce it.
Yeah, it was all encompassing for other
It's too political.
for their well,
It's just too political.
and there's
for
just not enough bodies. Some of those people are sharding on the sidewalk 3 to 5 times a day. That takes away all of your officers,
resources.
all of your
that
resources.
are busy already with
Yeah,
the
overdoses
fentanyl problems and
and
everything else in San Francisco.
murders,
Yeah.
rapes.
Tent cities.
Yeah. So they just had to stop prosecuting. But I mean, you could, now they can give a cheap ticket if you find that relieving yourself on the city streets and sidewalks is
Maybe they'll have like a
more your thing.
subway punch ticket, you know.
Yeah.
Your fourth dump is free.
Hey, if you get up to 10 dumps, you're going to have to pay the $75 that one cost for it. So, and that's
yeah.
what's unfair.
If
is
you make 100,000,
if I go have an emergency, which
Pay
I
the
have
ticket.
in a big city,
You're going to jail.
I've had a lower intestinal emergency in a big city, and I do not like this because I was actually I didn't get a citation, but
that's good.
I was yelled at by an officer for relieving myself behind a dumpster
Yeah. It's not acceptable, Tim.
in New Orleans one time. And it was a full-blown emergency.
Right.
My kids were there. I said, kiddos,
Look the
can't.
other way,
I said,
kids.
I'd rather you see me pee behind a dumpster than my pants. And sure enough, got caught.
Oh, it was only the number one?
Yeah.
Oh. And you still got in
It was
trouble
just number
for
one.
that?
Yeah, well, he just said, hey,
Hey, young
Hey.
young man. What you doing over there behind the dumpster?
it's always busy there. But we don't have any cool stories like Joel. New Orleans, I've taken the kids there a few times for eats, and it's a cool city.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody shot at us. We had a guy roll up that night though on a bicycle. He was on a pegs shocks. Fella rolled up and he said,
pigs. Lucky.
He didn't seem lucky. He just pulls up in the middle of the street and raises his head and says, $10 gram.
What?
Not sure what he was selling, but I said
Something that was weighted in grams.
something that was weighted in grams.
Wonder what that might
grams,
be.
and yelled it in the middle of the street. And
Could have been Teddy Grams.
he looked around.
You don't know.
That's what I told the kids, ironically. But he looks
$10.
around, and nobody wanted any Teddy Grahams, and he just
Found a different
spins
spot.
those. He had those ratcheting wheels that'll spin backwards.
Yeah.
And gave it a kick for effect, and then he was off.
Yep, to the next spot. See
I'll
if
never
anybody
forget,
wanted
though.
Teddy Grams.
$10 gram. Kids looked at me. It's like,
I don't know, kids. We're not in Southwest Missouri anymore. Yep. Well, next up, Tim. Oh, wait, we got to play the video for this. We almost got distracted there. So
Sorry.
here's the news story
Not sure how that happened.
about San Francisco.
San Francisco is launching a new speed safety pilot program backed by Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom, where how much you pay for a
Very
speeding
stern
ticket
look.
depends on who you are, and it's all in the name of equity. On its website, the City Transportation Authority goes out of its way to explain that speed safety cameras will be dispersed across San Francisco in a, quote, equitable fashion. But not everyone will have to pay the same if they get a ticket. Get this. Low-income offenders qualify for steep fine discounts, guys, up to half off. And if you're homeless but speeding in your vehicle, you can get up to 80% discount. Jerry, here's just one of the many problems I have with this. The reason for this program, for the speed cameras, was reportedly because of high injury areas, meaning where pedestrians have been hit and killed. So since all lives are equal, why are we giving discounts on speeding tickets when everyone should understand how serious it is to drive safely where people have died?
I couldn't believe this when I read this. I was like, is this really true? We are all equal in the eyes of the law. Oh, no, we're not. We're not all equal in the eyes of the law. Okay, so might this get extended eventually? So maybe if I commit a burglary and I don't have a lot of money, maybe that's okay. Or maybe I get a reduced
It's already
sentence,
that way to
I
some
don't
degree.
understand the
Robin Hood
logic
bill.
operating
The
there.
Robin Hood
I think we
bill.
should all be equal in the eyes of the law, and
Not a
everybody should pay the same fine.
Double the taxes, triple the taxes. I'll make them pay.
Unless you're homeless.
Unless they're homeless. It was funny because
Get a pass.
right before this, Joe Rogan had a guy on his podcast, and they were talking about how it had been rumored that people would start doing exactly what San Fran announced, and just talking about how ridiculous it was. And then I saw this on the Freeform, and I was like, "Oh my word,
Yeah, it's happening.
it's happening!"
So we'll see how that turns out for
I will
San
say
Fran.
that I would still probably be the guy that you never wanted to ride in the car with, had tickets not bled me dry
Yeah,
and broken me down.
I was with you on a few of those.
Yeah. After about 100, you're so broke you can't even get a lawyer to keep your license.
Right.
And you shouldn't have a license.
Yeah. I've always said, if we just had like an app where you could say, you know what, I want to speed today and I'm willing to pay extra. Right?
Close the exits off.
Yeah. You could just pay extra,
It's like the golden ticket.
prepay the fine, knowing you're going to speed. And that's fine.
You could call it the golden ticket.
The golden ticket. There you go.
Like, it's going to be for $0
pretty good
because you
idea.
already paid.
Kind of like a toll road, but for speeding.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to,
Sounds like a street takeover.
if you want to be that insufferable person that just stays in the left lane, going 10 miles under the speed limit, you can not pay a fine unless you stay in the left lane.
I think they should have a enter at your own risk third lane, like the Autobahn.
Yep. Where like insurance wouldn't pay if you have an accident in the third lane.
We know you're an idiot if you're in this lane,
Right.
but that's your choice because it's America.
It's the freedom lane is what that would be, Tim. Just painted with the American flag.
Buy an annual pass,
There you go.
$5,000
For the freedom lane.
and all the people that wanted to buy a helicopter would be like, "Oh no, I'm good. I can get there.
Right.
I can get there on time."
Cheaper than operating a helicopter for sure.
And they just kind of roll you off into a mass grave.
Right.
If things go poorly.
The MoDOT truck just comes up and scoops you up. Sorry, buddy, you're clogging up the freedom lane.
Yeah, you have
Gonna
the
scoot you over
roadkill funeral, and people are like, yeah, he was an idiot. They actually
sure liked him some freedom,
they
though.
actually mass produced the tombstones and says he was an idiot.
Here, you get one of these. great. I'm loving it. All kinds of great ideas today. So next up, we go to the woke state of Colorado, Tim, where they're considering legislation to penalize misgendering someone in a public space.
I got to roll back for 1 second.
Okay.
I'm hoping that San Fran also brings on that based on your IQ decides how much your jail time is.
Yes. You got to take the test.
Yeah. You get a court-issued IQ test, and that also bases the, if your plea is, the devil made me do it.
Right.
They're like, well, take this test.
Take this test and
we may need to evaluate whether you're fit for time.
Right.
Carry on.
Oh, man. So Colorado, this is a Not the Bee article. It says, new Colorado bill would penalize misgendering in public spaces. Use it as a justification to take your kids away. Colorado Democrats are pushing House Bill 25, one of the most extreme gender ideology bills in the nation, which no one's shocked about. I need to go through that. Actually, we need to have an episode where I just go through all the Democrat bills that are filed in Missouri, like the crazy ones. Just go through them, talk about them. Let's do that.
I want to.
By the end of session, we're going to do that. So, yeah, it is. Here's what's at stake. If this bill, it's called the Kelly Loving Act, becomes law. Dead naming and misgendering as a discriminatory act, biologically correct given names, or accidentally using the wrong pronoun could now legally brand you a bigot. Section 8 and 9 define dead naming and misgendering as discriminatory acts in the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act and prohibit these acts in places of public accommodation. Weaponizing custody battles. Parents who refuse to affirm gender confusion could see their rights stripped away in court. This is so insane. When making child custody decisions and determining the best interests of a child or purposes of parenting time, a court shall consider dead naming, misgendering, or threatening to publish material related to an individual's gender-affirming health care services as types of coercive control. So you could lose your kids in court if you were found guilty of misgendering your child or trying to steer them away.
And this is already enacted in Canada.
Right.
But formerly, DFS would take your kids if you were a deadbeat or a miscreant.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's if you're a dead namer or a misgenderer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's already a guy who literally is in jail in Canada because of this.
Yeah, here's some other things. Gender ideology forced into all schools, public, private, and so they're even doing this in they're forcing private schools, Tim, that would have to have no choice but to comply with laws regarding chosen names and would be penalized for dead naming or misgendering students. So you're talking about Christian private schools that might completely disagree with this ideology would be forced then to comply. And with anyone who had a chosen name, or if they were dead naming them or misgendering their students, they could be penalized in the court of law. Also, courts would not be allowed to enforce laws from other states that protect kids. Judges would not be allowed to recognize laws that penalize abusive parents who chemically castrate children, which is puberty blockers. We've talked about this. We have bills in Missouri dealing with this. Or pay doctors to mutilate their children's genitals, which they call gender-affirming health care. No more gender-based dress codes. Schools would be powerless to enforce basic standards, opening the door to boys in skirts and biological males in girls' locker rooms and everything in between. This is absolute insanity, what they are introducing in an actual bill that could become law in Colorado, because I think they have a majority in both chambers in Colorado.
Colorado really does lead the way
It's bad.
On full-blown idiocracy.
Because all the people moved out of California into Colorado.
You know, had this law been in place at the school I was raised in, every single girl in the school would have found a way to not have to wear those jumpers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They were an abomination.
Yeah, but they could be taken to the courts.
Yeah. No, they could have all wore khakis and a white shirt and a blue tie.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, every one of them would have done about anything to get out of those dadgum jumpers.
Yeah.
It was a gunny sack with
be like
shoulder straps.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He's oppressing me.
Those were oppressive jumpers.
Right. So, yeah, that's what's going on in Colorado from the Party of Tolerance, Tim.
It's scary because Colorado led the way on legalizing marijuana, and now it's everywhere.
Yep.
They let, when they do something like this, it really, for all the comfort that I take with Republicans pretty firmly at the helm of federal stance, Colorado is like a foreshadowing. It's kind of like Canada is a foreshadowing of what's coming our way.
Yeah.
With their just, if
Or
something
UK.
doesn't stop, or the UK.
Yeah. Which the UK has already gone back on some of the gender stuff. They're probably too far down the road when it comes to immigration. There's no going back in the UK with that.
But the outcry is there.
And they're facing it. We're going to take a break real quick, and we'll be right back. Just hang tight. What you got there?
The Shamisen Orchestra.
No.
On iTunes.
There's no way. What is it?
A Shamisen Orchestra. It's what's gotten me through this week.
Oh, man.
The build-up.
That's some good stuff. Does it have a crescendo here in a second?
The beat drops.
Does it? I can't wait.
I'm going to go ahead and scroll forward.
Okay. Oh.
It's like not Children of the Corn banjo play.
That is.
I want to go to Tokyo.
There's no other sound quite like it, actually.
And see them live.
You know what I mean? That's good stuff. All right, we're back from the break, everybody. Back with the Shamisen Orchestra. You said you had one side of the shamisen done on the...
Yeah, I stretched the leather.
Yeah.
Today.
Sweet.
Moistened it up. Moisture. I love moisture. And aren't you a tall glass of water? You ever seen...
and I'm feeling thirsty.
Have you ever seen... it's Ernest Goes to Jail.
Yes. For sure. It's been a day or two, but yes.
I wouldn't revisit it.
Right.
But that one line, anytime the word moist comes up.
It's good stuff.
Moisture.
So, next up, Tim, just a real quick check to see the recent border crossing numbers. Have you seen anything lately? Here's what I found. So 2024, right? 137,000 under Joe Biden, 137,000 border crossings. 2025, this is just to where we're at in the year, to March. So up to March, or the 1st of April in 2024, under Joe Biden, 137,000 border crossings. Under Trump 2.0, 2025 up until April, 7,000. If that's not an absolute drastic
That's a stark difference.
A 94% decrease in border crossings than Joe Biden.
See, I would have guessed 97%. I would have spouted it like a fact.
From this, Tim, it seems clear to me that all we needed was to change our president to secure our borders. Seems like that the bill the Democrats kept talking about, remember that? You know, it had to be a bill. It was necessary to do this, to actually shut down the border, and they were pressuring Republicans to try to support the bill.
I'm just a bill.
Right.
On Capitol Hill.
Yes. Never gets old.
Turns out
it's
unprecedented.
Just a president and a State Department with the authority to do the right thing and shut it down is all we needed, which also then deters those thinking they can come over the border easily, and I would say also drastically reduces the dangerous drugs coming across the border as well. I can't even imagine the difference in the drug trafficking when it comes to what comes over the border as well. So huge difference under Trump when it comes to border crossings. And go ahead.
Did you hear Elon talking about how they were issuing Social Security numbers, and
yes,
people actually voted, and they're going to prosecute the people who voted, knowing that they shouldn't have?
Yes.
It was already happening.
I did read a little bit about that.
I was listening.
The numbers, though, were just astronomical.
It was pretty like...
so explain what you're talking about, like using other people's Social Security numbers.
They, in DOJ's findings in the Social Security, they've been combing through that, and they found that people would come across the border. They would file for amnesty or whatever, asylum claims, this, that, and the other.
Right.
Regardless of how they came here or whatever, they would report to this was during the Biden administration, they would report to and get a court date set up. Typically, I think they said there's only 7,000, and I wish Joel was here.
Right.
I think they said there were 7,000 judges that did these cases with millions of people crossing the border. And they were given a court date 6 years out. Maybe it's only 700 judges. Whatever it was, like they could hear, it took about 6 years based on the people that were coming over during Biden's administration. And they were given a tax number, which is more or less a Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
Some were actually given a Social Security number in the meantime until they were heard by a judge. What kind of judge is it? Immigration judge.
In the vetting process that should take place.
So 6 years, they had legal status until their hearing. So that innocent until proven guilty. Well, they found, I believe it was just as far as they've made it, over 300,000 people voted.
Wow.
With those temporary Social Security numbers. And that was not part of the, federal law.
Right.
And so he was saying they're going to try to go through and prosecute based on that. 300,000 votes.
It's crazy.
Depending where they're at.
But that's the thing.
And where they were at was very, very specific.
very specific. And when you look at the fraud that happens, whether it's foreign influence or whatever it might be, it's always targeted in those swing states or in the blue areas of states. Like, for instance, in Missouri, where you're going to find fraud when it comes to our elections is ding, ding, St. Louis, Kansas City, a little bit maybe in Springfield. But the two big cities are the issue. And that's where, like, Zuckbucks, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg was pouring in all this money into our elections. Where did it go? Did it go to rural election authorities? No, it didn't. It always went to, the bulk of it always went to the blue precincts and the blue cities, and that's who got the funds.
And to not go too far out without a fact checker here, but I will say, I believe, check it for yourself, but I believe it was 300,000 that they have found so far that actually voted.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, like, is it Puma County in Arizona? Whatever the one that's always highly contested. Mm-hmm. I believe it's like 1,300 votes decided a lot of those elections.
Yeah. And could decide a presidential election with Arizona being a swing state.
And
or
so
Georgia.
If my numbers are right from the gleaning that I did up from that interview, 300,000 is a way bigger number than it sounds like.
Yeah.
Because if they're in the right
targeted
place, and they will be, it's going to be a real problem.
Speaking of immigration, Trump showed off the new Trump Gold Card this week. Yes. Did you see it? Let's watch this video, and he's talking about it.
$5 million. For $5 million, this could be yours. That was the first of the cards. And then, you know that card?
It's got his face on there.
Could you imagine carrying that around in your passport?
Right.
Gold card. It's the gold card.
You're good.
The Trump card, gold card.
I want one.
Who's the first buyer?
Fast pass.
Me. I'm the
second?
first. I don't know, but I'm the first buyer. It'll be out in about less than 2 weeks.
So they're saying that 1,000 people have spoken for them.
Uh-huh.
That's $5 billion in revenue.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I would make, this is cut and dry. If it's not already the plan, every dollar raised through the Trump Gold Card should go straight to the border.
Yeah.
$5 billion if just the people who have showed interest want them or end up buying them. That's a good portion of the wall. Wasn't it 21 billion they thought they could complete the wall at one point?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely make a huge dent, if not even
pay for it.
Pay for it. Just with that. Just with that.
Immigrants will pay for the wall.
Yeah.
If Mexico won't.
And the thing about that is, like, it's still a vetted process.
Yeah.
It's not like that these people just pay the money and they get to come without going through a process of vetting to make sure that they're not enemies of the United States or whatever. So it's still a vetted process.
5 million is still a good chunk of change.
It sure is. Next up, Democrat Senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker, filibustered this week in the U.S. Senate, set a record, actually. Beat Ted Cruz's record in the U.S. Senate. Filibustering and just basically protesting Trump the entire time. So I wanted to play a few of the,
I saw some
highlights.
Friends of mine on Facebook praising this.
Yeah, 14. Some of this is at like different points in it, but
could you talk for 14 hours if you had to?
Oh, it was longer than that. That was just part of it. Like, could I? It'd be tough. I think I could. But
what are the chances?
There are breaks. You realize that, right?
See, I wouldn't take them.
Yeah. So
defeat the purpose. I'd be pooping down my leg if I felt this passionate about anything.
Right.
I would not stop.
Yeah.
I would not stop to pee. Would not stop to poo.
Well, they take what they call quorum calls, because once you make the motion, which is a privileged motion of a quorum call, then all the senators have to come in, because you have to have a quorum to even have the debate, right?
And I got to sit in on a small
you did last
in
year.
JC.
I forgot about
which
that.
was enlightening.
It was.
And I thought, man, my younger brother Phil,
He could do it.
if they needed a Cory Booker
Right.
in Jefferson City, I bet Phil could talk uninterrupted for at least 36 hours.
Well, yeah, because again, you don't have to speak germane to the topic.
No.
So you can read a book, you can read Dr. Seuss.
Don't get me wrong, I could too. But Phil would
He would actually speak to the topic, yes.
speak to the topics.
Yeah.
Topics.
With his full page of notes, literally
Yes.
full page, for sure.
I would like to see that.
So yeah, Cory
But-
Booker filibustered. Here's some of the highlights I wanted to show you.
Is this taking one for the team
Bro.
if you use the entire 26 hours?
right. Yeah, I mean, here's what. Well, I'll tell you my opinion about
He was
this.
heralded as a hero by the left.
Oh, for sure.
The lefties.
Yeah, this is when he had been speaking for, I think, 13 hours straight. Here he goes.
I have a tremendous love for this institution. As a 98-year-old, she now has dementia. $5 trillion that disproportionately go to the wealthy, your report means he has not been able to get loans to expand his business as long as I possibly physically can. So is presented to us as appropriate object. We can win no from now. What's China doing while we're doing this?
Here's what's crazy, Tim. You would think that he's actually speaking to an audience, but guess what? There's no one in the room.
No.
There's no one in the room.
I've been there.
That would make it
there
more
may have been
difficult, I think.
few people in the peanut gallery, you know.
That would be more difficult.
It really wouldn't.
Here he is again.
To anyone?
Nobody.
So he just wants national.
Maybe he has a few
Fox News
fans.
article.
Well, there are a couple other senators who occasionally ask him questions, and he yields the floor. But by yielding for a question, then he still controls the floor. This is not a filibuster, by the way.
So here's what did you miss last night when you made that dumb decision to sleep?
I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able. I rise tonight because I believe sincerely that our country is in crisis. We are not solving the deficit in what they're proposing here.
Country's in crisis.
They're cutting and cutting and cutting things that make no sense to cut.
Cutting and cutting things we've been blowing money on for years. So that's Cory Booker. Here he is again. Watch this one, Tim.
I'm about to go to the Senate floor where I intend to be recognized. And when I am not going to stop speaking. I'm going to not stop standing. I'm going to go for as long as I'm physically able to go. I've been hearing from people all over my state and indeed all over the nation calling upon folks in Congress to do more.
So you know which state he's from, right? He's a senator in New Jersey.
Yes.
So here's my take on this. I think he did it for another reason. When you look at this, he's from New Jersey. Maybe he thought it would help his chances next election. New Jersey may go red.
He'll say.
And the numbers aren't looking good for Democrats in New Jersey.
No one works harder for the people. This was my... How many? 20?
26, I think.
I'll tell you something. The longest podcast ever done.
Oh.
The longest straight was 36 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm pretty sure.
Without a break?
Without a break.
Crazy.
I'm pretty sure.
Ours was 5 or 6 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah. But.
Which is still pretty good.
This is. So they had a 156-hour podcast, but it was people rotating. I'm pretty sure I've driven for 42 hours in a setting. I think it may be within our grasp.
We could do it. Set the record.
To go for 37 hours.
Whew. I don't know. That's a lot for this old man. Now maybe if we had Phil come on with us.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. If we had a few pinch hitters, we could probably make it happen. So yeah, but I don't know. Maybe see if you can find it. Look up the recent Republican versus Democrat registrations that are happening in New Jersey. I saw a story about this week, and it's not looking good for Democrats. If you remember, Scott Pressler said that New Jersey was going to be the next target after Pennsylvania, right? So I think that there may be some self-serving reasons as to why Cory Booker made his so-called filibuster.
There may be a lot of filibusters this year based on that logic.
For sure.
So, New Jersey, GOP keeps making gains in voter registration. This was January. There are 184,026 more Republicans than Democrat registered voters as of January.
What was the number? 126,000?
184,000. So, New Jersey Republicans outpaced Democrats by more than a 2-to-1 margin on voter registration in 2024.
Wow.
Reducing the Democratic voter registration edge to 896,350, down from over 1 million 4 years ago.
Wow.
So they're by 184,000 outpaced, it's 200,000 and
significant.
And that's just people who have bothered to change their registration.
Wow. So, yeah, I think
that's 20% a year.
Republicans are making strides there. So we'll see what that looks like in the midterms. I think that will kind of tell the story, right, of what will happen in 28.
And Ben, another thing is, at midterms, what kind of call to come out and vote will there be if things continue like they are?
Right.
Things have already quieted down a lot in the last 3 months. But, I mean, you got to think about the people who are just like, wait, I feel like we are going in a good direction.
And Trump keeps polling higher. Like, even after the tariffs, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, he still polled higher even after he made the announcements for the tariffs.
And this has been a absolute feeding frenzy by media.
Yeah.
The tariffs.
For sure. We're going to talk about that. So next up, real quick, I wanted to mention this. This is something else.
Oompa Loompa filter?
Yes. So CNN was caught using an orange filter for President Trump coverage, right?
And given the history, they did this to Joe Rogan during COVID when he said he'd used ivermectin. And
oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
So they made him look green. And people in the comments still had the audacity to say, oh no, Fox
is the one
turning
that was
him
him
white.
Yeah, so look at this video side by side between CNN coverage and Fox News coverage and the different hue of President Trump's face. Look at this. Why isn't it working?
You ever seen the Tim Allen movie Christmas with the Cranks?
Yes. So look at that versus this. This is this.
Wow.
There's Fox News. Okay. And here's CNN.
Orange alert.
Right. The orange filter.
Our economy is in an orange alert.
Right.
On CNN.
Isn't that crazy? Like, so in comparison, I mean, look at the difference. It's just ridiculous propaganda is what it is.
Somebody should do a Photoshop and put them side by side in the same frame.
I'm sure somebody's got that, but yeah, but that shows you the mainstream media and why that they continue to lose trust with the American people, because people see through this and there's no way to avoid it now with independent media and the ability for people to show this ridiculousness when it comes to that. So Next up, as of April the 5th, Tim, 2025, New York City Mayor Eric Adams has opted to run for re-election as an independent, bypassing the Democratic primary in New York City. This follows a dismissal when it comes to the federal corruption case from September of 2024. If you remember, involved bribery. Somebody's got this. Tim showing me the picture of the
it is
side by side.
It is
there it is.
Stark contrast.
The orange filter. So you remember the case with Eric Adams, bribery, illegal campaign contributions, which tanked his approval rating down to 20% and strained his ties with the Democratic Party. So he's facing already a tough primary as a Democrat, and his frustration with Democrats over the issues like the migrant crisis. So Adams announced his independent bid on April the 3rd, 2025, aiming for what he called truly independent leadership. So despite aligning with Trump on immigration and facing criticism, he'll need, I think they do it by signatures in New York City. It's like 3,750 signatures that you have to have by May the 27th to get on the November ballot as an independent.
I don't think that'll be the problem, but
probably not. He'll make it on the ballot, I think, as an independent.
I feel like he was too little too late, and he probably should have just done a full-on flip.
Yeah. Flip
the
to
old
Republican. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's hard for him to do, but
for sure.
To me, it seems like as though this is not a real change of heart on policy, of course. No. Or, it's just more a political move to try to get reelected to me. So opportunistic,
Do
right?
you see that happening?
Rather than really conversion of ideas.
Do you see that happening?
What's that?
Legitimately, him getting elected on a...
I don't.
I don't either.
On an independent ballot.
No. And so, I don't know. I just have to hope that we can...
He'll probably do better on an independent ballot than he would as a Democrat, and I think that's what he's hoping for.
In fact, him staying in the Democrat ballot probably would have been, in the primary at least, more effective for getting a better person elected.
Exactly.
So he wasn't taken, he wasn't falling on his sword. You know, it was definitely just a political move.
Yeah. So, and I think that's really common, actually, in politics with people who only care about getting reelected. They'll change their platform and even their own persona. Looking at you, Jasmine Crockett, right, to appeal to the electorate.
She's now Jazzy Crockett.
And hopefully, somehow pull it off.
Jazzy Crockett.
Yeah. I'm going to show you an example of this, Tim. A real-world example when it comes to Chucky Schumer circa 1996 versus recent.
Hey, we had an addendum offered in by a fact checker.
Oh.
An independent fact checker, listener, friend of the podcast.
Yeah.
You asked me last week pointedly if Chuck Schumer, if that quote was recent.
Yeah.
It was not recent.
It was not recent.
It was brought to our attention. And hey,
this is Joel's fault, Tim.
It is Joel's fault.
I will say.
But
I'll admit it.
I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. Sam could definitely be the interim fact checker. Because he
needs to be
he called me out
backup.
on a couple. Yes, and it was not a recent quote when Chuck Schumer. It was from Trump's first term.
Thank the gentleman, salute him for his work on this. Right.
So here's Chuck Schumer, circa 1996. Tim.
Thank the gentleman, salute him for his work on this, rise in support of the amendment. First of all, Social Security card is used from one end of America to the other as an identification card right now. Who are we kidding? If you want to pass a law and says it shouldn't be, I would ask the chairman and the distinguished minority member
So he's
of the Social
advocating
Security
for
the committee to pass that law, but let's
mandatory
admit the truth.
voter ID.
Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. All over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law.
Okay, so that's 1996, Tim. Now look at more
jobs,
recent
get
comments.
against
Watch
the law
this
because
one.
of about a third of all of the spending that's done in Medicare, Medicaid. I would
Notice he
imagine
has
a lot of it's in the private
his
sector
hair
as
back
well.
on the
Doesn't
back of
go
his
to
head.
really good health care, goes to other things. And the real nub of this is how do we wring that waste out, that fraud, abuse, duplication?
Okay, so this
without
is him
interfering
in 2010 advocating for rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, Tim. So like Doge, right? This
Yeah.
is 2010. Chuck Schumer.
He was a Dogester.
He was a Doger.
fraud.
Now watch.
And here the gentleman, thank the gentleman,
Can't get
salute him
back
for
to
his
the other
work
screen. There's three different ones.
on.
Here's the other one.
And then you'll notice there's a strange trend here.
Okay, this is it.
Where how many Social Security numbers were issued?
This is
it's. Do you want to?
Yeah. So let me.
Elon talking about
here.
this.
We started at the top of the system.
You want to talk about a lot of it?
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. And there's a lot of great people there that showed us really a lot of waste. And so that came up with a big list of stuff they're working on. You've heard some of that already. But this is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000
Yeah, this is
people.
exactly what you
Goes
were
all the
talking
way
about a
to
minute
2.1
ago.
million in 24.
270,000.
Yeah, so the point of this
1,224,000
is showing
Put
that Chuck
together the most
Schumer
effective anti-fraud
has completely changed his position when it comes to immigration,
Do the flippy floppy.
when it comes to voter ID,
the flippy floppy.
since the early days of Chucky. And that is unfortunately very common among politicians.
You remember all the Biden, Hillary, the videos where they argue with themselves that were
right.
That was gold.
Yeah, saying the complete opposite policy position in the setting where it benefited.
The one I
them.
remember was Hillary arguing with herself about LGBTQ.
Yes. Yes.
In
they all have.
early 90s, she was saying marriage is between
Yes.
one man and one woman, and then they would pan to her arguing the other side of it.
Mm-hmm. That's what happens with these people.
It's wild.
So common. Next up, the Supreme Court, Tim, just dropped a decision this week that's got Team Trump popping champagne like it's 2016 all over again. The Supremes decided in a nail-biting 5-4 smackdown on federal judges to let President Trump slam the brakes on the $65 million in Department of Education grants. Why? Because apparently those funds were sneaking off to fund, DEI indoctrination. So here's the scene. 8 blue states, California, Massachusetts, and the usual suspects, were clutching the pearls, crying out, but our teacher training programs, our precious DEI workshops. So they hauled the feds into court. Fast as you can say, critical race theory. And a Boston judge named Myung Jun tried to play the hero, issuing a temporary order to keep the cash flowing, but Trump's legal eagles swooped in and said, "Not so fast, Your Honor." And boom, the conservative Fab Five,
Has
the
anyone
Supreme
checked
Court.
if he was a Chinese national?
Right. Who knows?
I'm not.
Who knows?
It sounds racist.
It's Boston.
But we did.
Anything's possible.
We did run into some stuff last week.
We sure did.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Might be worth checking.
So the Supreme Court, they said, no, sorry, states, you've got the financial wherewithal to fund your own woke fest if you want to, but we're not doing it from the federal level. So don't go crying to Uncle Sam. And the unsigned opinion from this was basically just a mic drop, saying if you lose this fight later, you can sue for the money back. If you don't keep your programs running well, then, hey, that's a you problem, states. So meanwhile, the dissenters on this, which was, yep, you guessed it, Chief Justice John Roberts and all the liberal judges were over there like, hey, this is an outrage. Where's the emergency?
Speaking of judges.
Yeah?
Do we have any seats coming up?
In Missouri? Or on the Supreme Court?
The big house.
So here's my thinking, Tim, now that you bring it up. It's a little sidebar to our conversation here. I think that you're going to see my favorite judge, which would be the Honorable Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas.
He's going to retire during this Trump presidency
Get
term.
a little youth.
Yep. And they're going to get somebody young in there like, I don't know, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz. I would love to see a Josh Hawley on the Supreme Court.
He's young and vibrant.
Yeah. So, hey.
Stallion of a man.
We'll see what happens with that.
Oh,
But
that'd be exciting.
I think it's actually very possible.
None of the other seats.
I don't think you're going to see that.
Yeah.
You know, you're definitely not going to see any Democrats resigning under this term. And
They'll be weekend at Bernie's, just like
that's right.
the last round.
That's right. Ginsburg. So, here's what happened with this. So Trump's out here chalking up this as a first big win of the second term against these out-of-control federal judges, and they're scrambling. Moral of the story is, when Trump says no more DEI, Tim, the Supreme Court's got his back and set a pretty good precedent on that. So your tax dollars are staying out of the diversity seminar snack funds is basically what this is. So that was a big deal, I think, in ruling this week. Finally, a decision that backs up the fact that Trump can, in fact, make these decisions with executive orders and say, no more spending on this ridiculous wokeness with our tax dollars. We're done. So next up this week, the big story shaking up the globe really is the tariffs, specifically President Donald Trump's sweeping new trade policy. So let's dive into that a little bit. On Wednesday, Trump dropped a bombshell announcing a baseline 10% tariff on all U.S. imports starting today, April the 5th, with even steeper duties up to 34% on some countries and kicking in next week on April the 9th. So he called it Liberation Day for American manufacturers, targeting 185 nations that he labeled the worst offenders in trade fairness. But the world didn't sit still, of course. China fired back Friday with a 34% tariff on all U.S. goods effective April the 10th. And Canada slapped new duties on certain American vehicles. The EU getting hit with a 20% levy, and companies like Jaguar, Land Rover are already pausing shipments to adjust to the tariffs. So now, how's the stock market handling this and taking this? This is a good question. I want to get your opinion on, Tim. You're watching that usually pretty closely. Wall Street's been quite a roller coaster. This week, it kind of plunged off the tracks. The Dow tanked 2,200 points yesterday alone, a 5.5% drop, landing it in the correction territory. The S&P 500 shed 6%, losing $5 trillion in value over 2 days. And the NASDAQ, it's officially in a bear market, down nearly 20% this year after a 5.8% nosedive on Friday. So obviously investors are spooked, fearing these tariffs could choke corporate profits and spark a global recession. JP Morgan actually came out with a statement yesterday, I believe, saying that risk is at about a 60% for a recession. Some big names in this got hammered too. GE Healthcare dropped 16%. Caterpillar's down 20% to date. The Fed chair, Jerome Powell, chimed in, warning of higher inflation and slower growth ahead. Trump, of course, is staying defiant with this, saying, he even shared a video that about how it could be purposeful, with the markets still shell-shocked, though, and more tariff deadlines looming next week. All eyes are on this and this trade war to see how it plays out. What do you think about this, Tim?
So Dow Jones, we hit an all-time high of 44 and change. About 44.5 was the high water mark. That was, right now, we are exactly where we were 12 months ago.
Okay.
As far as the Dow Jones goes. Think about that.
And I don't remember anybody saying the end of the world was happening with the stock market a year ago.
Well, bubble is the term. And so 12 months ago, if you look at your personal finances, at how far your dollar went, all that, you would not think we were at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're at 38, the Dow's at like 38,314 at the end of day. We were at 44 at the end of Biden's administration. We should have never been. The whole point of it is that we should have never been at 44.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the things that were driving that was NVIDIA, all good companies.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I said all that to say this is really, I think inflation continues, and more or less inflation, you're just taking, is all you're doing is the dollar's going less distance.
Mm-hmm.
Stocks in the Dow Jones didn't get up to 44,000. The dollar went down, and those stocks just stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they weren't losing.
So it was really inflationary.
Inflation is the only reason we got to the high water mark. And in order to get back to reality, we probably need to be around 32,000 on the Dow. And so all of the numbers, if you just realize that the dollar was down to its lowest point, is why the market was at its highest.
Mm-hmm.
So the companies had the same value.
Right.
The dollar was not worth what the 32 is kind of like. I feel like that's like a healthy place for our, like if it's at 32,000 in the Dow, that's reality.
Mm-hmm.
We got to 44 based on no growth.
Right.
Just on the dollar shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a healthy correction. And I would say that if Kamala was in.
Yeah. So here's what I think about this too. Like, I think that's a little bit of a recession, or a correction, really, is what
it's just a correction.
Is really what it is inevitable. But I also believe the timing of this is extremely important. So we need to have this now, where there is time to recover before the midterms.
We needed it 2 years ago as far as a country, but...
Yes, but we definitely don't need to wait until the middle of the midterms for this correction. We need it to happen now, and we need to have time for this to recover, which it will.
And we'll see real growth. That's the beauty of it.
Real growth.
Like, I wouldn't tell anybody buy stocks today, but I would say give it 3 more months, and then start looking at opportunities in companies like Tesla that are being driven down at a
in an artificial way. Really.
Artificial way.
Yeah. So I think it will rebound quickly when we see, and we're already seeing on the tariffs, we're already seeing these countries cave on this and actually come to the table. And I think that's the point of it. But if it is strong during the 2026 midterms, if it rebounds, the economy really becomes strong, which I think it will, before the 2026 midterms, Republicans then, I believe, will maintain the majority.
Yeah.
And that is if the Wisconsin Supreme Court race that just happened doesn't cause them to allow gerrymandering to win seats for the Democrats, which is definitely possible. But we'll see what happens with that. But if this is how it plays out in the midterms and the economy is strong, we've rebounded from a recession or a correction in the markets, then I think 2028 is J.D. Vance all the way, is what I think.
And I really believe that the reality, and I hate it for people who are, coming upon retirement right now, but I feel like 32, the Dow at 32 is probably where it should be if the dollar is getting stronger.
Yeah.
And so it's going to get worse.
It is going to get a little bit worse, I think. But you're also seeing oil at its lowest point right now. It's almost like break even right now, actually. Yeah. It's like $60-some a barrel right now. I think you're going to see interest rates come down as this correction begins to happen. I want to play this video that was a little explainer on tariffs. It's called Tariffs 101. I thought it was interesting, and then we'll talk about it.
It's important to remember that tariffs aren't just tools for trade wars. They're a key part of economic independence. Before income tax was introduced in 1913, tariffs were the main source of revenue for the U.S. government. This allowed the country to fund itself and grow without directly taxing citizens. Tariffs protect American workers and industries from being undercut by low-cost, lower-quality foreign goods, allowing American businesses to compete and thrive. By levying tariffs, we maintain jobs and encourage domestic production, both crucial for national security and prosperity. Tariffs also help the U.S. negotiate better trade deals, pushing other countries to lower their trade barriers in exchange. So, who would oppose tariffs? Globalists, corrupt politicians, and crooked elites whose only care is wealth and power. They take advantage of cheap labor and lax regulations abroad. They take advantage of you. Enough is enough. Tariffs are about valuing our workers, our consumers, and our nation. Let's keep jobs in America and use tariffs the way our forefathers did, to protect our economy and our future. We need strong economic policies. We need tariffs, not taxes. We need to put America first and begin a new golden age.
So, I thought this was interesting. I don't agree with all of it, but I do believe that they're right about the tax burden, right? Because when you look at tariffs originally, that's what it funded the federal government for the most part. And we had either no taxes at that time. There was no income tax at that time. And I think if you had that kind of recorrection, I think Americans fare far better in that kind of a situation.
Well, if China took Taiwan over today, like, it would crash the world in a way that you can't fathom, because we don't produce any decent chips. All of them are being produced in Taiwan, and that is changing as quickly as Trump and Elon and all the people who realize the exposure we have there, as fast as they can get plants moved over. All of that stuff's not going to happen without tariffs causing, it not make sense for capitalism abroad.
Yeah. And the other thing, and I've talked about this a lot with people. I'm like, look, for so long we went in the wrong direction when it comes to our trade policy, and so many countries taking advantage of us that it's going to take a little bit to recorrect this. It's going to hurt for a little bit.
Yeah, if you don't think there's growing pains involved with that, and you're insane.
Right. But I think we need to see how this plays out with the trade policy. But I also do think that tax policy happening on the federal level to coincide with the tariffs.
Yeah.
If it's actually going to be something that's long-term, which I question whether the tariffs are really a long-term strategy.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a negotiation tactic. But if it's going to be a long-term strategy, then I think an offset of that has to be with our federal tax policy, which I think most people would be in favor of. But we'll see what happens.
I know there is some posturing with tariffs, but I feel like in all, it needs to be a long-term strategy to truly bring the production back to the U.S. that we need just to sustain ourselves.
To really reset it.
Yep. And just to have our bases covered if we ever do get alienated, which feels very, very possible just based on the, wars and rumors of wars. So,
yep.
Hopefully we bring it back around and then,
right.
Tariffs do what they're supposed to do.
So next up, a mechanical horse robot, Tim, is being built by Kawasaki.
I was sure when I saw this.
You thought it was fake, didn't you?
I was not going to get Enron egged again. Enron egg on my face. I said nay.
It felt like that, didn't it?
I had to go.
I said nay
to Kawasaki, their website, and
you pre-fact checked.
I pre-fact checked it because of the Enron egg on my face.
Right,
and we're good to go.
This is true,
legitimate.
It is true. So the Kawasaki Corleo is what we're going to watch here, and then we'll talk about it. Watch this video. This is wild.
You wouldn't know this because I know your kids are too old to be playing the game called Humans Fall Flat.
Right.
But the AI video of this was just like the characters on Humans Fall Flat.
Really?
And they're just these floppy. They don't have a vertebrae.
Oh.
And I was watching this and I was like, it's obviously AI generated video.
Right, it is.
And so I was just feeling hoodwinked the whole time I watched it.
I did too when I first saw it, and I had to dig into it, but it is true. So the Kawasaki Corleo is a hydrogen-powered,
of course,
four-legged robot vehicle that was unveiled.
Are you sure it's not powered by a tiny
egg
that splits atoms?
I'm not 100% sure, but they did say in their rollout of this that
I
it was
thought I might have
hydrogen
seen
powered.
that it was powered by the Enron egg.
So it was unveiled at the Osaka Kansai Expo on April the 5th, blending motorcycle engineering with robotics for off-road mobility. Tim, when I first saw this, the first thing my mind went to was how awesome this would be for hunting the mountains out west.
No question.
Like elk hunting, this would be absolutely unbelievable to go places where a four-wheeler could never go. And all I could see was a camo version of this.
I'm hearing what you're saying, but let me just tell you, when you go like an old John Wayne Western,
right,
and you go on the side of your horse, and your knee slips down in between that joint, and the hydraulic leg of your
it's not going to be great
horse crushes your femur off, and you look down at that stump and you think,
It was cool while it lasted.
I should have stuck to my 3-wheeler.
Should have stuck to a
Kawasaki,
real horse.
Kawasaki, we should have stuck to, because you remember when they slide around on the side of the horse and shoot their bow off?
Underneath.
Under, over. Problem is you have these hydraulic legs that look very capable. It jumped across a cliff.
Right. In the AI video.
Imagine that crushing force just pinching your femur off.
Pinching it off.
Like
just bleeding out.
Like a forehead zit on a teenager. And you look down, it's not going to cauterize it. It's just going to clean it,
Just wide open.
Keep a tourniquet if you buy one.
Yeah.
And go elk hunting. That's all I'm saying.
Definitely need to carry a first aid kit with you.
You are going to be carried out.
Or at least a belt.
Not the elk.
A belt.
If you make one bad move towards those legs, they should have some kind of a shroud. I know it wouldn't look good in the video.
Right.
Something should keep you from...
Yeah.
It would be like riding on a skid steer bucket. Just hoping everything...
Worked out. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good assessment, I think, Tim.
But it's a great...
of the quarterly,
fun to watch.
Yeah.
But
so it kind of draws from like
you thought the 3-wheeler was bad.
The Star Wars. Yeah, right. This is way worse than a 3-wheeler. Imagine what the insurance policy is going to be on this beast.
It's going to be kind of like the freedom
be like,
lane in the highway.
No.
Like,
well, sorry.
Use at your own risk.
We cannot
life insurance
cover this.
Does not include fatalities due to riding the Corleone.
Yeah. I do like the focus on hydrogen power, though.
Yeah.
Which is something that I think we should have had a long time ago, actually.
Yeah.
If we were allowed to have a free market, that is. But all I want to say is, hey, it would be great to have the mechanical horse.
Hey.
And I definitely want one.
Me too.
I guarantee you the government's going to find a way to ruin it for all of us.
I'm telling you,
it's just not
I
safe.
was on the. I am not the safety guy. I was run off of one time I was run off of a Crossland job by their safety guy.
Yeah.
He walked in and he said, "Why are you wearing beach attire on a commercial construction site?" And he had me.
What'd you have on? Crocs?
I was wearing Crocs and swimming trunks.
Of course.
And a wife beater.
Yep.
It was in my... I mean, I wouldn't wear that now. If someone forced me to.
Most days.
Around the house.
Right.
But I went to work like that. I'd never been on a site with a on-site safety person.
Right.
And I had to go to the Goodwill that day and slip into some dungarees that had been slipped into a time or two. Because I didn't want to go all the way back to Neosho.
Right.
I came back with a Goodwill OSHA-approved outfit.
Nice.
Finished the day out, and I left the Crocs at home henceforth.
Wow.
Till I got to a job without a safety manager.
Right. So, we'll see.
But
what
if
happens.
I was on the panel of this, I'd be like, "Sorry, guys, this is a death trap." That was where I was heading there.
Even Tim Holden says it's a death trap.
Don't do it. Just take a dirt
You don't
bike
want
and
that
wish for the
femur
best.
pinched off, people.
I'm telling you.
Dadgummit.
You're going to want to do a fancy...
You're going to bleed out in the mountains.
A fancy crossbow shot under the belly of your Corleone.
Oh, well, Tim, we've covered it all, I think, today.
I think so. This was a exciting... Hey.
Anything else? Nothing else?
My heart is full.
Okay. All right, folks, you know the drill. Go over there to wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Amazon or Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Chinese wet market.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Well, we don't care where you get them. We don't
bootleg
care.
DVD.
Black market podcasts
Chinese
for all
wet
we
market.
care. But just wherever you get them, leave us a review, a 5-star. Because, even though Joel isn't here again this week, I think we still deserve the 5-star, Tim.
He'll be back.
Right. We'll get him back.
I guarantee
we've got an
you,
APB out on Joel right now.
I guarantee you, nothing would bring greater joy than we may have an interim fact checker waiting in the wings.
Right. If we don't, that's what we need to do. We need to put pressure on Joel and say, Joel, there's a lot of people lining up.
Sam's rubbing his hands
this
together.
Job, son.
He's been fact checking me since kindergarten.
Yeah, I like it. So go over there and leave us a 5-star review. Bill Hardwick this week on the Midweek Minute. I don't know if you have seen that yet, but he promised us that he would leave us a review. I'm still waiting on it, but I think he will. We'll give him a few more days, and then we'll put some pressure on old Bill to do that. But so leave us a 5-star review. Share it with your friends. With that, everybody, hey, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Without you, there is no quorum.
That's right.
And we will Cory Booker you.
Yes, we will. Oh, so good.
We will filibust.
Filibust it up.
Hey, we will have a working
Shamasan. I can't wait.
In the man cave next week.
Can't wait.
I'm gonna order
so happy
a hanger.
Yep. We might even put the first thing on the American flag wall, Tim.
Yeah, I don't want to besmirch the flag.
Right.
But there are few things more American than the Japanese shamasan that was called back to life.
That's right. It's legendary, actually.
How? Crowd pleaser right there.
Joel missed a really good episode, I will say.
He'll be listening.
That's right.
Pining for the cave.
Pining for the fields. A dead parrot.
He was nailed there.